Okay, let's unpack this. We've been tracking geopolitical tensions centered on, well, everything from trade tariffs to microchips, but this week, the conflict has moved right into the heart of digital defense. We're talking cybersecurity software. We are talking about this recent highly systematic move by Beijing to reportedly blacklist over a dozen major U.S. and Israeli cybersecurity firms.
And this is a monumental shift.
Yeah.
It really is. That's why this deep dive is so crucial. It's far more than just, commercial friction. It's a definitive escalation in the global race for what you might call technological supremacy.
Right.
For you, the listener, the mission here is to look past the immediate stock market reactions and really understand the deep structural implications this action has.
And the stated reason for it is, well, it's pretty stark, and it's wrapped entirely in national security.
Completely.
Our sources highlight Beijing's fear that integrating this foreign software gives it the ability to, and I'm quoting here, collect and transmit confidential information abroad.
Creating a massive vulnerability in their eyes.
Exactly. It's a move that really solidifies this connection between digital trust and national origin.
And what's fascinating here is that this isn't some slow phase out.
No.
It's an immediate system-wide directive. It's designed to move straight to substitution, not just, restriction. They are actively removing these tools from enterprise and government networks now.
So let's get into the list itself, because the sheer breadth of firms that have been blacklisted, it signals this is a systemic push.
It really is. You're talking about the entire digital ecosystem.
Yeah.
A mix of U.S. powerhouses, a core group of Israeli innovators.
And even a large French firm caught in the crossfire through an acquisition.
Right. And I think the best way to digest it is to maybe break it down into, say, three main categories.
Okay.
First, you have the absolute giants of network and endpoint security.
Yeah.
So that list includes Palo Alto Networks, which is just massive in firewalls, Fortinet, another huge network player, and then the heavyweights in EDR, that's endpoint detection and response like CrowdStrike and SentinelOne.
And for those who might not know, EDR tools are particularly sensitive, aren't they? I mean, they're not just scanning for viruses.
Oh, not at all. They're actively monitoring everything that happens inside a network.
Everything.
Processes, user behavior, internal communications. If a government is worried about spying, EDR is like target number one.
Absolutely.
So the list continues with Broadcom-owned VMware, Recorded Future, McAfee, Clarity, and Rapid7. Then you have the second group, which represents all this recent corporate consolidation. It shows how complex these bands can get.
Right.
The list targets Alphabet-owned Mandiant, Wiz, whose purchase Alphabet just announced last year, and Imperva, which was purchased by the French defense giant Thales in 2023.
So even if the parent company isn't from the U.S. or Israel, if the technology's roots are there, it's getting flagged.
Correct. And then the final group is the pure Israeli contingent, which is a major signal in itself.
Who's on that list?
That would be Checkpoint Software Technologies, Orca Security, and Cato Networks. It is just a staggering amount of tech being walled off almost overnight.
It truly is. And this huge removal strategy, it just clearly outlines Beijing's long-term goal here.
Replacing Western tech.
Exactly. Replacing it with secure domestic alternatives. This is what digital sovereignty looks like in action.
And we even know who's poised to fill that void. The sources identify the primary domestic beneficiaries as 360 Security Technology and Neusoft.
So they're not just banning, they're actively promoting the replacements.
They're being elevated by state mandate. They're being positioned as the new sanctioned infrastructure backbone.
But this brings up a huge strategic question for me. If you suddenly pull out global leaders like Palo Alto and Fortinet are the domestic alternatives, are they really mature enough to fill those massive security gaps right away?
That is the critical paradox, isn't it?
It sounds like prioritizing national origin over proven large-scale efficacy.
Well, it is. I mean, this move creates a huge market opportunity for them, but it also creates potential vulnerabilities, at least in the short term. It just shows that the political risk of using Western software now outweighs the technical risk of relying on their own emerging solutions.
Okay, so let's pivot to Section 2, because this is where the story gets really contradictory. How are these massive global firms reacting to the news?
This is such an important question. How exposed were they really? And we saw these deeply divergent public statements. The narrative right after the ban was often one of, well, minimal damage.
Walk us through that. Who was claiming low exposure?
Okay, so you had several key firms that really tried to minimize the impact. CrowdStrike, SentinelOne, Recorded Future, and Clarity all basically said they do no business or have virtually no direct revenue from mainland China.
Some even said they never intended to.
Right. And McAfee, meanwhile, they took a different tack. They claimed their tech was mostly for consumers and not built for government or enterprise use in that region.
So, on paper, a company like CrowdStrike can go to its investors and say, look, this is a zero revenue loss event for us. But if that's the case, why is Beijing wasting diplomatic capital to formally ban them?
And that's where the analysis has to go deeper.
Mm-hmm.
A move against firms with low current revenue exposure, it signals two things.
Okay.
First, they're killing the potential for future market penetration. They're closing the door before the next generation of security tech can even get a foot in.
And second?
Second, it's about signaling to the U.S. market. It's a diplomatic, reciprocal action, a shot across the bow.
Meanwhile, you have others who were genuinely surprised. I saw the CEO of Orca Security expressed real disappointment.
He did. He said his company hadn't even been notified and viewed the ban as a step in the wrong direction. So it's this mix of, nonchalant dismissal and genuine shock.
Exactly. And despite all these low exposure claims from some firms, others have a long and, a significant Chinese footprint.
And this is where it really challenges that narrative, that these firms are completely disconnected from the region.
And we're not just talking about sales here, but actual physical presence. What kind of infrastructure did the sources show?
You see a substantial investment. Actual offices, staff on the ground. Fortinet, for example, lists 3 offices in mainland China, plus 1 in Hong Kong.
That's significant.
Check Point's website shows support addresses in both Shanghai and Hong Kong. Broadcom lists 6 total locations across China. And Palo Alto Networks has 5 local offices, including 1 in Macau.
That is not negligible at all. Those aren't just sales desks. Those are often research, support, engineering hubs.
That's a huge investment.
And a flow of intellectual property. Even if they're not selling EDR tools to the central government, that operational footprint is real, and it's now under intense scrutiny.
And the market, it responded, though not uniformly. When the news broke, the initial financial impact was pretty mixed.
What did that look like?
In Wednesday trading, you saw Broadcom, which has the most diversified business outside of cyber, fall over 4%. Fortinet dropped more than 2%.
Rapid7 was also down.
Down to over 1%. But then you saw Palo Alto and Check Point shares hold relatively steady, or even close slightly up.
That divergence is really telling, isn't it? It suggests investors are quickly figuring out which firms had China as a major enterprise pipeline.
And which ones, like Palo Alto and Check Point, already had revenue streams that were diversified away from the mainland.
It's a quick calculation of vulnerability versus global resilience.
Right. But we can't really understand the true weight of this ban unless we zoom out and connect it to the pure picture.
The geopolitical cybersecurity game.
Exactly. Where trust in a piece of software's origin has become the ultimate vulnerability.
So why is this category security software so fundamentally sensitive to every major world power?
It all comes down to control and intelligence. These firms are often led by people with backgrounds in national defense, and as we said, their products have sweeping access to corporate networks.
So if you're a competing government, you're not seeing these as protective tools.
No, you're seeing them as potential intelligence collection platforms, or worse, sabotage mechanisms.
That paranoia isn't new, though, and it's certainly not unique to Beijing. We have to remember the last major move like this.
You're talking about Kaspersky.
The sources point straight back to the U.S. purge of the Russian antivirus firm Kaspersky.
And that precedent is crucial because it really set the global standard for this kind of distrust.
Right.
Suspicions grew about its ties to the Russian government, and then eventually the U.S. purged the software from all federal networks back in 2017.
And then fast forward to 2024, and the U.S. has a total sales ban on Kaspersky products across the whole country.
So what we're seeing today is the mirror image of that. China is doing to U.S. and Israeli firms precisely what the U.S. did to a major Russian firm. It just underscores that once that digital trust is broken, it rarely, if ever, comes back.
It creates this feedback loop of distrust.
And the irony is just so thick here because many of the banned firms have also been the most aggressive about exposing alleged Chinese cyber activity.
It's almost as if being too good at their job painted a giant target on their backs.
In a way, yes, it's a simultaneous tit for tat in both cyber claims and trade bans.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Just last month, Check Point published a really detailed report on an allegedly Chinese-linked hacking operation. It targeted an unidentified European government office,
And Palo Alto.
Palo Alto published a report alleging a Chinese hacking effort targeted diplomats worldwide last September.
And just to be clear for everyone, China denies all of these counter-allegations. Their stance is that this ban is purely defensive.
Right. And this cybersecurity ban, it fits into a much larger, very cohesive national strategy.
It's not happening in a vacuum.
Not at all. Chinese analysts have been quite open that Beijing is concerned that any Western equipment, regardless of what it does, could potentially be exploited by foreign powers.
And this fear has already been driving efforts to replace Western computers, even word processing software.
This isn't just about cybersecurity, then. It's sort of the final frontier of their decade-long push for digital self-reliance.
Absolutely. And we can't ignore the immediate diplomatic backdrop here. This massive blacklisting decision comes right in the middle of a very uneasy trade truce between the U.S. and China.
And crucially, as preparations are underway for a U.S. President Donald Trump visit to Beijing in April.
The timing feels highly strategic. It sends a clear signal of national strength and self-reliance ahead of any big negotiations.
Beijing is effectively saying, we control our core digital infrastructure, regardless of what's discussed at the negotiating table.
That's the key takeaway right there. National security, as they define it, is trumping diplomacy.
It is.
This has been a fascinating breakdown of what is truly a global event in the tech world. Let's pull the core ideas together for you.
Okay, to synthesize the findings. This ban is a definitive, rapid acceleration toward technological decoupling.
Specifically in cybersecurity.
Right, in this mission-critical sector. It's driven purely by acute national security concerns, that fear of foreign data collection. And it heavily reinforces China's determined push for digital sovereignty and the rapid elevation of its domestic alternatives.
So this isn't just a commercial issue.
Not at all. It is a long-term, strategic move to control their own digital future.
So what does this all mean then for the future? I mean, the blacklisting affects huge global players, and it mirrors previous bans like Kaspersky. It sets a dangerous precedent.
It does.
If major powers increasingly define essential software, not by its technical efficacy, but by its origin, where the company is based, where the founders were born, what does global security even look like in the years ahead?
That's the billion-dollar question.
And maybe the most critical question for you to think about is this. What is the next category of essential foreign technology? Is it advanced AI tools? Is it cloud infrastructure? Is it sophisticated chip design software that will inevitably face this exact same national security barrier? That's something for you to mull over as we watch this technological competition continue to define the global landscape.